Hi everyone, Angus Campbell here. Monday the 28th of November 2022. Okay, the last video was of the stand, BSA Owners Club stand at the NEC Classic Motor Show, which was a couple of weekends ago now. And one of the bikes that you saw there is something that has joined the Powerset garage for a period of time anyway, so we can do some maintenance on it, get to know the bike a bit and do some riding next year. So we've got a few projects and things lined up for content that we can generate for this. So what is this in a bit more detail, and let's have a quick walk around it. I'll just go through some of the little bits and pieces that I've been doing to maintain and tidy it up. But suffice to say that it is all road legal and running, and we've already had a ride out on it to a local classic meet. When was that? Probably just over a week or so ago, where we have a classic meet, car stroke bike meet, every third weekend of the month. So it's all up and running, it's riding well, but let's have a walk around it, introduce you to it, tell you what it's all about, what we've done, and basically use that then as the foundation for some videos next year. So here we have a allegedly 1971 BSA Goldstar 250SS B25SS. It's a Home and General Export one, and it's early, and it is now and was originally in flamboyant blue with a dove grey frame, not the more usual one that you see with the red tank side panels with the black stripes on the tank and white pinstriping. So this bike was in production and had marketing leaflets produced, but ultimately they only made one batch, we believe, of flamboyant blue, which I say was going to be the Home and General Export colour. But once they'd done this one batch, which was built before, I think, the 27th of Jan 1971, all the remaining B25SSs that came off the line were the red and dove grey rather than the blue, so the colour was dropped. All the American market ones were red, flamboyant red, black stripes, dove grey, and they only made this model for one model year, which was 1971, but as per all production schedules at BSA, the 71 model year would have normally started in August 1970, with the strategy being that the bikes were built early in the season so they could be exported to foreign markets, and especially America, before the buying season in the spring. Now obviously part of BSA's demise was due to all the machines coming off the production line late, after lots of problems and hold-ups in development across the whole range just about. But the B25SSs was one of the first models to begin to be produced after the Aerial 3 for the year. So this has an engine stroke frame number which is matching, but it's September 70, which is very, very, very early. But in the dispatch books, I think this is down as being built late Jan, early February, and dispatched at the same time. But it is a bit of an anomaly, because I believe, according to the information I've been given from the dispatch books, it was dispatched before it was built. But certainly the engine number, as I say, doesn't actually hold up to that. So it's a little bit odd. But needless to say, it is a flamboyant blue one, and we believe that one batch of about 146, I believe, were built before this colour was dropped. Other things that point to it being a home and general export one rather than American is the twin leading shoe front brake. I believe the American market ones had the smaller 7-inch single leader, even though we're a B25SS. But other than that, all the models then, all the differences are, sorry, all the various guises of this are all the same then. Basically, engine, frame, rolling chassis. Just a few minor details, as I say, with respect to the different markets, but nothing much. Now, there are other things on this that distinguish it being an early revision of this model, and that is that the electrics box here was changed 2 or 3 times during the production run across the 71 model year, and the early ones had just a single multi-connector for a QD headlamp, and that was ditched pretty early on. And also I believe they changed the horn mounting, because this horn mounting is directly on the electrics box, which is rubber mounted. Used to be anyway, might have been changed, but I believe they changed the mounting of that. This might be slightly later because that is directly attached to the frame. But anyway, it's in the right position with the right bracket, and that's what we want. So that, as I say, denotes it as being an early revision. Now on this one as well, it has got its optional extras, such as the main stand, which is pretty rare to see on a B25SS, and also, as you can see down there, the bash plate, and it does have the rev counter drive and rev counter up the top. So we've got twin clocks on this as well. So what you see there is a bog standard flamboyant blue and dove grey B25SS, and on the tank the gold badges are correct, and as you can see there's no stripes at all on the tank, but there is the white stripe on the mudguard, and that is correct. So these allegedly began being built, the B25SSs, in November and December 1970. As I say, other than the Aerial 3, these were the first bikes to come off the production line, so these were built early. And following that, I think the Rocket 3s came off in January 71, and they all sort of flowed down from there, and things really got to a head in January, February, when the factory really was in full swing at last with the 71 range, but obviously they were 5 or 6 months late. So they missed the selling season in the States, and ultimately in the summer, the warehouses in the States were absolutely chock full of these bikes. Not just these, but obviously examples of it across the range. They hadn't sold, and therefore there was no income, and that contributed to the demise of BSA with the initial redundancies, I think in July 71, carrying on through, obviously. So I say, pretty much, as far as I can tell, bog standard. Now, obviously, this bike has been restored, and it's not a bad job. It's not perfect, but it's if you like, a workable restoration. And initially I thought, no, there's some things I want to change on this because I'm not happy, but you know, I've cleaned it up and I've tidied up a few bits and pieces, and I think it's a really nice little bike, and so I'm going to leave it pretty much as is. Now let me tell you what I've done to this then since I brought it back to the Powerset garage from the NEC Motor Show. So first things first, the paintwork looks good, but actually up close you can see, you know, there's been hardly any prep, if any at all, on the underlying tank before this was sprayed. And you can see, you know, there's patches here that are thin, but you can see that they've tried to, if you like, put a thin layer of blue over a silver or white base, which was correct to get this flamboyant metallic blue finish. It's a very pretty colour. So it's a bit rough, but it's polished up really well. So, and the colour, it might be a little dark, but it's pretty bloody good, to be honest. And same with the side panels, you know, not very well prepared. But these stance transfer stroke stickers, they're in exactly the right position. And more important, they are on the tank. So the tank always sits with a slight slant with the back down. So therefore, you know, the badges, if it was a straight tank, the badges look as though they're on skew, but they're not, because they're absolutely level when the bike's wheels are on the ground. So that's good as well. So they've done some good things with this. But the other thing that interests me is the fact that this front mudguard, I think, somehow they've managed to source this as a new all stock, and this is where they've got the paint match from. The paint on this is much, much better. But more importantly, this white line is not paint. It's like an early revision of vinyl, and I can't remember the name of it. And it's the same stuff that they put for the white stripes on the Show Fury, which they built in November 70. It's exactly the same material. So whoever did it has done this very well. I think it was the owner before the previous owner, if you like. So a few iterations back, but that's good and probably worth its weight in gold. So that's pretty impressive. Similarly, the hubs have been painted, and the colour's about right. It's a little bit bright maybe, but it looked pretty good. But close up, you know, they're rough. You can see that there's hardly been any prep on them. But you know, from this sort of position, they're really nice and clean. It's quite even. Rims aren't bad at all. There is some pitting, as you can see. So the bike's done a bit of work since it was done. I don't think these are the original rims, and I'll show you why in a minute. The back one is worse. But again, it makes it, you know, a usable working bike through all the weathers really, without having to worry about it. So that's what we'll aim to do. That's what we'll aim to do next year. The frame is, they've done a pretty good job on the frame, to be honest. The paint and the coating on it is pretty good, and the colour is excellent. The colour match is very good, and I've got, you know, matched paint from the factory, and this matches it. So they've done a really good job on that. I'd say all the parts are correct. So yes, you know, this cam is the right, the brake arm's the right way around and not up, which is wrong. Obviously we've got the correct snail cams. So, you know, it's all good. I'm not quite sure about these shocks. I don't think necessarily they're original, but they're okay. And also, you know, I know Hagen shocks are good, but I hate the Hagen labels at the bottom there, and these haven't got them if they are Hagen shocks, so that's good too. The engine, you can see evidence again of that having been sort of vapor blasted or something like that, but it's obviously been very pitted. So that brings me on to the next thing, and that is that with respect to some of the engine cases, which have, you know, been cleaned up but not highly polished, and the original tank that we got with this, and also let me show you the original Speedo that came with it, which I think is still over here. Here it is. Look at the state of that. And the original tank is in a similar state. It's up on the shelf here now, because I wanted it out of the way. Can you see at the top there? There's its original tank. And you can see where we can get a colour match off that if we want. So it's in factory paint, flamboyant blue, and one of the badges is on it in the right position, and it's gold, so we know that's correct. But the underside of the tank is peppered with holes. So before whomever you know restored this got it, this thing was in a hell of a state. It had obviously been outside all its life. But it is a UK bike. We know it was delivered, I think it was Comerford's. I do have the information, just can't remember it off the top of my head. So, as I say, it was built as a home and general export bike, and it was delivered and sold in the UK. But again, ridden probably for not very long, then left in all the weathers. But anyway, a really tidy, pretty bike. So what have I done then since I've brought it back? Well, not very much really. I've tidied up the cabling a bit. This was all over the place. It's still not perfect now, but we've got some of the original cable ties on there, tidied that up. The engine is very, very quiet. Normally these have a really rattly top end, but this is very quiet. It starts really well, but just before the run out last weekend I had a few problems and found that the HT lead wasn't connected properly into the coil up the top there. And what people tend to do is they put the special little circular clip on the end of the HT lead, and they don't really push it to click it in properly into the coil. And what had happened is it had fallen out, so that was an easy fix. But the spark on it is massive. Also, what I've done is the clocks weren't mounted properly. So these clocks, the little 60mm ones, both work well. They were mounted and sitting proud, and that's because whomever mounted these up in the cups hadn't taken off a metal bracket that's designed for another application, and so they weren't sitting in the cups properly. So we put those in. Had to change one of the warning lights because again these were original and rusted up to high heaven, and one wasn't working properly simply because it wasn't getting any a good contact, so I had to change one out from stock, but that's okay. Also the usual, I think I did mention the fact that in a previous video the conical hub brake wasn't adjusted properly, so it's not quite right or optimal now, but the two brake arms were pointing too far inwards. So all I did was adjust the vernier cams as normal, slacken off the cable, and I've got 5 or 6 clicks on each cam, which takes the arms backwards. Although it's not perfect, it's much, much better. And as you can imagine, I mean, this brake set up properly on the Rocket 3 hauls it up pretty well. On this, it really is, a nice, powerful and progressive brake. What else? When we got it, there was a horn on here to work, which worked well, but it wasn't the original horn. It was only mounted on one bolt. We've managed to source a horn, obviously not warranted or anything, pretty rough. They're the Lucas 6H ones. Managed to find, there are a few on eBay in black. Some people say they should originally be in black, I'm not sure. But anyway, for now I've done it Doug grey. It's cleaned up all right, and I just put it on for the show, the NEC show, to sort of smarten that area up a bit. And all I did was unscrew the big screw and the adjustment screw at the back and just squirt a bit of WD in there. And then when we brought it back here and charged the battery up, etc., it worked first time, spot on. So that was a win, because I wasn't sure whether that would ever work properly. Other things, there were wires hanging out from underneath here, some of which were blanks and some of which were routed properly, so I've just done a bit of rerouting there, no problem at all. And also just made sure that I've insulated the blank wire ends, and those are from the switches associated with the starter motor and I think the engine stop switch, which hasn't been connected up on this, so we're just making sure that's not going to short anything else out. I've kept the same fuel pipes as was on it, but I've just replaced some Jubilee clips that were used with the proper crimped ferrules, so that's fine. And other than that then, it's just been a clean up. Put a bit of heat resistant paint on the silencer, etc., just to cover up a bit of scratches. You can see here the rear hub is the same with the front. Superficially it looks all right, but close up, there we go, there's no prep at all. The sort of pitted paint underneath. But, you know, just back, you know, 3 inches or so, looks okay. Paint's not too bad on the rear mudguard. But again, I think that has been sprayed, and as you can see, lack of prep. But a really nice, presentable little bike. Starts well, rides really well. Doesn't tick over yet when warm, so we've got to sort that out. All the electrics work fine. Haven't checked yet whether it's on points or all the original rectifier, but those are some of the things that we can do when we get into this next year. But for now, I might, if the weather's all right, might nip to the East Midlands branch of the BSA Owners Club tomorrow even, just to give it a bit more of a ride, a sort of 50-mile round trip. But anyway, there we are, in addition, and a bike that you'll see next year. So we'll leave it there after that bit of a walk round. There's a bit of an intro to the B25SS in the power set, and I'll see you all again soon, when hopefully shortly I hope to do an intro on the Intruder. But that is, you know, a derivation of BSA power set from Triumph's version, which was the Triumph Power Plan for 71, which used the same frame as the A65 twins. So, you know, it's got a valid link to the other bikes. Right, we'll leave it there. Let's focus back in for the end shot. And see you all again soon. Thanks for any subscriptions, interested comments, and back soon. Toodaloo.